Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Ellen. So I thought I'd do a kind of fun, simple, small size wash of how to do a sky and a simple painting, adding in some sailboats and some like beach grasses. If you're stumped and it's summer and you're trying to think of something kind of fun and easy to paint, this is it. This is for any skill level. Anyone can paint this. I'm telling you, you can paint this. I show you how I do the wet on dry wash technique for the sky and go in and do the ocean and the sailboats. And then there's little simple beach grasses. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comment section. Also check out my Patreon. I have ad-free videos, traceables, exclusive tutorials on Thursdays that are longer, more in-depth than there are on YouTube. And I have a special Facebook group where people share things. We do weekly challenges, monthly giveaways, all that good stuff. And Patreons get first dibs on watercolor workshops and retreats. It's just a place people go and support my channel, which I super love. Thank you so much. So, without further ado, let's get painting a nice, simple, and fun and sweet coastal scene. Alright, so for this tutorial, I'll go over my supplies. I'm using a Princeton number 12 Neptune series round. I have this paper from Fabriano. It's a block. It's a 5x7 cold press block, which is great. If you're traveling, it's great to have. My palette here. This is like a collapsible little water cup that I used when I was, traveling, and I figured I'd put it here so you guys can see better the water jars. I use bigger ones when I do my videos, and so everyone's like, I can't see you touch the water, but this way you can. So a little small size is great if you're just starting out trying to paint skies, trying to figure out how to paint skies. You get a little nervous about it. I always tell people start small and then go big, and you keep building the size as you go, right? I have like these mini Mondays that are great, that are this size, less intimidating. Then we'll get to a bigger size like 5x7, and we do like 8x10, you get bigger than that. So like a simple little, if you want to do like a simple summerscape scene, like a postcard kind of scenario, this is great for that. I was thinking about like something like with an ocean, a beautiful sky, maybe like a sailboat or two. So I have my trusty little mechanical pencil here. Just take a ruler, or even just, I even have like another piece of paper, and go across and figure where you want to put your skyline. I think I'm going to have mine kind of here, going across, 3/4 the way down, just to make sure I'm not like drawing it really kind of poorly here. I'm going to get my little ruler here, go across. Yeah, it might not be straight. It's always good to have a little ruler close by. This is just a little teeny one. This is great for traveling. So now you know where to stop, right? And like I said, this is an exercise in just painting skies and simple oceans. You have your line here. If you want to figure you want to put some sailboats, you could put some masking fluid in on the sailboat so you can keep it white, or you can painting around it for the sky would be more difficult. So maybe you just put the sail in here. So basically a sailboat. Oops, wow, there goes my pencil. Kind of wild. Sometimes this always happens, so I'll just use another pencil here. Real time. So for a sailboat, it's just a straight line down. Right, you see that straight line? Curve the line, and then curve it again, bellow it out, and then that's your sail. And then for the boat, a line underneath it, little V in here, and there's your sailboat. Simple little sailboat. You can do a couple of them. That's the bigger one. Maybe make the same thing smaller here. I like to have a little race. I like to do things in odd numbers, so a little smaller one out here, a little number 3. So if you have masking fluid, this is the perfect time to use it. You don't take like a perfect brush. Just take like a crappy old brush. I'm going to grab one of my old meh kind of brushes here. You want to wreck some of the really good watercolor brushes. So just grab an old brush and mask in. My masking fluid's a little thick right now. Where the sail is going to be. Don't worry about the mast. Just the sail itself. Just fill that triangle part in, because we'll be putting paint in the bottom. Just a simple little line here and a little triangle here. Then it becomes much easier. You have to let this dry, kind of let it dry naturally. It becomes a little sticky, and then we can get going painting. If you wanted to put like some land down here, you could do that. Little beach scene. So that's just maybe just like kind of have it kind of rolling. So I would do like little lines, kind of. Of course, this I grabbed the one that has not a pencil. Kind of rolling down here, like a little dune, kind of happening there. Just on one side, keep the rest open like the ocean. And we figure we'll put some dune grass kind of wiggling like this here. So it's just a little curvy line down, and that's that. And then we can start painting in the skies. And that's the part that people get really intimidated by, but I feel like if I just break it down easily for you, then you'll get it. Now, if you want your sky to be perfectly straight going into that line there, I suggest taking some tape. Now I have just magic Scotch tape, and I kind of just I actually just tape my clothes and then put it back on here. So you can hear me, that noise. I'm putting it on my shirt and taking it off. Just be gentle going over the sailboats. So then you have this nice crisp line, if you want a crisp line for the sky area, because then you'll have a nice line. If not, it won't. There we go. The reason why I put on the clothes first is because it doesn't become as sticky. You can see the threads from the clothes on the tape, and therefore it won't stick as hard and won't rip your paper, all that good stuff. So let's get some paint loose, right? I think with the sky, I'm going to use some cobalt. I have this nice, beautiful, bright cobalt color here. There are a couple ways to do skies. I talked about this in my workshop recently in Cape Cod. You can paint it wet first and then wash in the color wet on wet or wet on dry. Some people think the wet on dry is harder. I like doing it every now and then because then you can have like these white areas that are from the paper that haven't been touched that leave that like essence of a cloud. If you're doing wet on wet, then you have to kind of maneuver making the clouds that way. There's two schools of thought. So I have the cobalt loosened here. You want a fair amount loose. Good paint. And if you want to make a prettier sky, I might loosen up some nice, beautiful white, bright rose. And you mix that with the cobalt. You have like a nice purple color. You can kind of see it over here. Move it across. See, nice purple color. More blue you add, more purple, blue, you know, all that kind of stuff. Depends on how you want it. Or you want to have just some pink thrown into the sky. So I'll loosen that up. You can have a little orange, you can have a little yellow. So we'll play around with that. I like to do the first one, wet on dry. It's just what I've been doing lately. It's kind of my thing. So we're going to be doing some tilting. Oops, sticking. Tilting is moving the paper like this and this and this. So I've got a very wet brush here. See, I'm going to watch me dipping back and forth in this brush. Got that cobalt. This is the wet on dry. This is a little more intimidating, but super easy if you just break it down. So look at the consistency. The consistency is like coffee. Think of coffee. It moves. It's very wet. It's not like tea. Tea is very watery. See that? More like tea. And we're going to start. We're just going to go sweeping, swooping down like this. See, swooping. Now you see the dry. Now I grab water and I kind of move it. Grab some water and move it. It will drip. Don't worry about it. And it won't drip any more than when you put it in the paper. Now I'm going to grab some water here. It's just sweeping kind of motion. Sweeping, so I've left a little white there. Now I'm going to grab a little thicker paint, move it in here. The consistency is more like a milk. You can add a little Payne's gray to make it a little darker, like a stormy sky. Make it interesting. See how it goes like this when you tilt it? It's going to have that rays kind of happening. You always want your paint darker in the sky on the top and lighter on the bottom. So I'll clean up my brush now. And I kind of put the paint, just water down, going down this way. And it's just water. I still have this little opening here. I might manipulate this a little bit. Boom. Now I'm going to grab some water, put that down, and I'm going to grab some of my pink. And just kind of play with that. It's going to turn a little purple where it hits the blue. If I lift up some of this paint over here and down here, I can get pink kind of happening again. If I left it a little whiter, you would really see the pink. See, purple. Tapping it. But here they have those rays kind of happening, which I like. I'm going to go back in and grab a little more blue. Don't want to fuss too much. If you fuss too much, and then it becomes a work. It really just is fast, simple, get that sky in, and boom. Then we've got to end up having cauliflower balloons, which we don't want. I'm going back and mixing up some more thicker paint up here and letting that drip do its thing. Tilting. Let it do its tilting thing. Trying to manipulate it a little bit. If it's not wet enough, maybe I have to water it down a little more. Tilting it this way, that way. Getting it to do its thing, its magical thing. So see, it's kind of sitting there. Oh boy. See, even sometimes I have issues. So I'm kind of pushing it around, getting a little wet, and hoping that it doesn't create any kind of blooms. And if it does, well, it happens. Okay. Has a nice little stormy kind of sky thing happening here. Done. Brush down. Don't touch it. Don't maneuver it. It might have a little couple of blooms. You can kind of play with it a little bit, move it around, but I don't want to fuss too much because then it will look overworked. Just going to have to let it do its thing. And that's that. You've messed it up enough, you're dry. I'll lift up my wonderful tape and I have that nice crisp line. So here we have to let it dry completely. We can start to play with the beach part of it a little bit. But not here because we have the water going on over here, right? So let's just let this dry. We can play with a little bit of the beach here. I'm going to take some of get water on my brush, grab this color called burnt umber, and I'll loosen this up. And this will be our sand color. Consistency is like tea, so you're watering it down. When you add the water to the pigment, it will get watered down. That's basically watercolor 101. Turning it from butter, which is right out of the tube. When you add more water, it becomes cream, more water milk, more water coffee, more water tea. I hope that makes sense. I'm going to just tilt my paper here and just put in a light wash of this little beigey brown from the burnt umber. I'm not going to do all of this. See how it's leaving some white and going on the edge here. I left a little white and going down the edge, so it's kind of like a little zigzag. And that's what I'll leave and let everything dry, and we're going to come in and do our ocean and some grass. Okay, so I let it dry by the power of television, and now we'll work on the ocean in this area. I'm going to tilt my paper a little bit. And now for the ocean color, it should be much darker than the sky. I'm going to use ultramarine blue. You can play around with putting in some Prussian blue too. Here's Prussian blue, a little bit deeper, darker. But ultramarine looks great. And you water it down. See, I'm getting the consistency here. So we're playing with this. I'm going to turn this so I can just maneuver my brush going sideways like this. Still using number 12, by the way. Putting in the color. You could use tape the opposite way. I find like I don't need to do that once I've got this one line down. Just go over it so gently. I'm going to grab some more right out of the tube, a little bit darker. And then I'm going to kind of leave some white also. So like little white caps happening. Not a bazillion of them, just a few. You just want a few of them. So we fill that color in. Going this way. Just leaving a few. Now this dune is kind of like not by the water line, so you can go right into it like this and then go across. So it's not the beach. It's like looking out at the ocean. And you do some dry brushing where you don't actually hit the paper. It looks like, you know, sparkling on the water kind of situation. So you get that first wash in there. We got some white left over. You can grab the paint thicker now, like cream, almost butter. Put a little darker color. I want to get a little bit darker. I can grab some Prussian blue in there. So the sailboats really pop because it made much darker. If you want to mix ultramarine blue with some Paynes gray, get even darker, you can kind of do that too. So here I'm kind of digging those lines. Again. Simple like that. Not so streaky. They're blending now because it's very damp and wet. I don't want to go over my white area too much. Kind of leave it like this. And I have to go over my back line here. You see in the white. So I'm going to get really thick with that tube paint. Ultramarine blue, a little Paynes gray. Get even darker still back here. Mix those two. So you really know where the waterline is. It's very simple. See, just a few colors like that. When you get down to this area, you can do a couple little lines. If it's dry, maybe a little still wet. See, just to indicate just a few dark lines like this. Not a gazillion of them, just a few. And then, of course, we have to wait till that dries. While that's still damp, by the way, if you have a credit card, let's see if I can grab one of my credit cards, old credit card, because we do grasses here, you can try and scrape out where the grasses will go from the lovely sand area. But we're going to paint some green over that anyway. You could go around the green. We could have done some masking fluid around that, but I don't think it's necessary for just playing and practicing. We're going to have to let this stuff dry, and we're going to come back and we'll do our grasses and our boats. Now for the grasses, we're going to mix cadmium yellow deep. You could mix it with a color called peacock blue, which makes a bright green color. There's the yellow. With Prussian blue makes it darker green. I always add a little burnt umber to make it look a little bit more natural. And we can play around with these two greens. I'm still using number 12. I know people are intimidated by a big brush, but it has a great tip if you have a brand new brush. If this is a problem for you, then maybe switch to a number 8 long round by Princeton. I want to make the paint here a little bit thicker, so more like cream, minimal movement, because we're painting over into the blue. So I'm just going to do this wisps like this. See, wisp. A bright chartreusey kind of green. And you kind of want to bend them going this way to the right. Up and over to the right. And then connect them. You don't want these little lines. You kind of want to wiggle it. Just go like this. And a few like that. And come down a little more here too. Then I'm going to grab the other green that I mixed up a little bit darker. Kind of play around with putting some of that color in. Oops. How I want it to blend better, it's not happening, so I'm going to add a little more yellow to that. It's a little too dark for me. And I'll go in here. Kind of mush it together. Just removing some paint. It's mushing it and removing it. There. So it looks like a little cluster. And I'll do a few little clusters kind of coming this way. Up and over. Not too much. Just in that one section. You can take some burnt umber and add a little bit of that. So change it down to the bottom here and a little bit down here. Now I'm going to grab my Princeton 8 long round, play around with some burnt umber here, loosen it up. Consistency in the coffee tea kind of situation, maybe a little milky. And you get more pointier grasses. See that? Real nice. These ones are a little thicker, these ones are a little thinner. Kind of going out and over skinny, longer, taller grasses. All kind of blowing this way. I'll go back in and grab a little bit of deeper greens. Just kind of play with adding that in the bottom here. Now it's pretty damp. I'm adding a little darker on the bottom. We're going to use that credit card again to do some scraping so you have some grasses in between. It's always good to test it. If it folds back in and it's too wet, it won't be able to show the white. If it's just right, you should see a white streak. So let's play with this. If you don't have a credit card and you have tube paints, you can use the corner of the tube paint, and that works. See, now it's kind of folding back in. See, I get the little grasses, get the little highlight. Can you see this highlight right there? Sweet, just from using the corner of your tube. See that? Or the old credit card. Either or. Kind of fun playing around with that. And then we'll do a couple little like shadows from there. Grab my Princeton 8 long round. So I would do like ultramarine blue, maybe mix in a little rose or magenta, a little purplish, a little more blue. Play around with that. I like to have a little blue in my shadow. So put a little blue kind of going down to the right in the grasses, leaving some space in between. See, leaving the space here. And this wonderful little shadow. Take some burnt umber that we have loosened up, put a little bit of that into the sand so you get a variety of the color. And that's that for that. Now we remove the masking fluid. I have a rubber cement pickup that I use for that. Of course, now I can't find it. Where is it? I didn't bring it with me away. I will always look for that. Interesting, but I can't find it when I need it. Oh, it was hiding behind something. So we moved. So move our masking fluid where our sailboats are. Look, it's almost done for you, right? So cute. If you miss a little bit, you can add a little white gouache. No one would know. So for the mask, you just use like Payne's gray. Maybe add a little brown to that. Just going straight down. Oops. I don't want super dark. Straight down. Add a little line connecting that one and go up a little bit. Do a cross line. Straight down. Cross line, and have the one line coming here. You can go on the boat, top and bottom, like adding a little definition to it. You can add a little porthole if you want. And on the mast, on the this part, you could have a flag going out, all that good stuff. So maybe I'll have like a yellow flag or an orange or green flag. If I have a yellow flag kind of going out this way. Just a little line. You make another color on the boat, like on the sail. You can have some lines. Just changing it up. There's the other little flag. Isn't that cute? And I would do a couple of, grab a little bit of gouache, white gouache, and you can do like a little couple of little white lines by the sailboat. Now, if you want to add for the last effect, just a couple little seagulls flying. I take some Payne's gray, do these like little V's, right? So we'll have a little V going down, up, curve down, up. And I always do like 3. And there is our lovely little water scene. If you want to add a few more touches of detail, get some deeper ultramarine blue with some Payne's gray. Get a couple of little darker lines too coming out this way. Just some detail. Play around with that. Oop, it's a little too dark. If I'm going dark there, I might as well go across. But that's pretty much it. You can add a little bit of gray to the boat so it's not super white, you know. And same thing with the sail. So that would be your cute little sailing. It ended up being kind of a stormy sky from when I painted, but hey, who cares, right? So I have that white line here. Maybe you want to make it more even, adding some more white caps. Again, grabbing some gouache because it looks very stormy. Yours might not be stormy, mine looks a little stormy. And that's pretty much a simple way to do a nice little water scene with some sailboats, a little bit of masking fluid, the little bees. It looks a little sophisticated. And you do the grasses, and you scrape up with a credit card. You paint a simple little shadow line, and that's it. Like a little postcard you give somebody for a summer vacation. Kind of fun and cute. This is where you get the details if you want to go back in with some Payne's gray and really go in, add some details to the boat. But not necessary, and I made mine fairly good size. You can make yours even tinier if you feel intimidated, just really tiny, small sailboat. It's perfectly, up to you. That's what the whole point is, just to have fun with the washes in the sky and then the boat. So this is your simple coastal scene. And like I said, you can play around with this scraping. If you messed up scraping, throw a little white gouache in. No one's going to know, right? It will get a little bit translucent if you give a little water to it, and you'll never know. Sneaky sneaks. So I hope this was fun. I hope you learned something. Like I see right here, the white is so extreme. I might go back in here as I'm standing up. Always good to stand up and stand back and just kind of dull it down a little bit. Too extreme, dull it down, and then it doesn't pop out as much. That's all you do. You just kind of tone it down by adding the watercolor back on there. And it's not so like your eye is going right there. So thank you so much for stopping by my channel. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. And if you haven't hit that bell notification button, please do so. And check out my Patreon. I have ad-free videos, traceables, longer tutorials that are exclusive and more in-depth, and I give reference photos and traceables sometimes to those. We have a Facebook page where people share their stuff, and I also give first dibs to all my patrons for workshops and watercolor retreats. They get the first dibs, and I'll be announcing a workshop coming up soon. So if you want to get on that before it sells out, you got to become a Patreon member. All right, thank you guys so much. Have a great day. I hope you're enjoying your summer vacation, and take care, and I'll speak to you soon.